Welcome to our free online training. My name is Sean and I'll be your trainer today. Before we get started, I do need to read this disclaimer. Today's training is designed to instruct in some of the basics of Metastock. I'll be providing some guidelines for using certain features within the software. However, nothing presented in this training is intended as, or should be construed to be, a recommendation to buy or sell any specific security. The information, software, and techniques presented today should only be used by investors who are aware of the risks inherent in trading. Equus shall hold no liability for any investment decisions based on the use of our software or any trading strategies or any information provided in connection with our company. That said, welcome to our first day of training. Today we're going to be going over a lot of the basics of Metastock and the program that comes with it called the Downloader. Over the next 4 weeks, we'll be going over most of the basics of our programs and help you get started with all of the fundamentals you'll need for Metastock. My hope is to get you enough tools to empower you to go out and start using Metastock right away. Today we'll be discussing some of our support pages and resources, as well as the help tools and functions that are available to you. I'll be walking you through a basic installation of the program and show you some of the basics in getting it started as well. After this, we'll be going over the differences between local data versus data on demand, and some of the reasons why you would use one or the other. Then we'll be going over the basic structure and purpose of the data CD, which is included in many of your purchases. We will then be going through a basic data download, and I'll show you how to make new securities and get data for those securities once you have them created. I'll then be going over a few different options available for opening charts, and I'll show you how to then plot an indicator. I'll be finishing up today by going over the basics of our fundamental data links that are available in Metastock. Now, it's important to know before we begin that today I'll be using Metastock 9.1 end of day, but the things that I'll be teaching today are the same principles and properties of Metastock across the board. So while I'll be using the symbols for Reuters Datalink, and your symbols for, if you have Metastock Professional for Quote Center, are a little bit different, the aspects of Metastock and how you use them are the same. So the symbols really are the main difference between the different versions in that way. So that's stated, and now that we've gone over the objectives, let's go ahead and begin. So the very first thing that you have to do with any program is you have to install it. Metastock's really no different in that route. The basic way to install the program is if you have the CD, you simply place the CD into the CD-ROM drive, and as soon as you do, a screen will pop up and walk you through the basic installation. Now, if you don't have autoplay or auto run enabled in your Windows settings, then nothing's going to come up. So at that point, all you have to do, let's go ahead and I'm going to share for you my desktop. Alright, here it is. All you have to do is click on Start, go to Run, and type in d:/setup.exe, just like that, and type OK. Now, if you have the CD in the drive, it will then begin. Now, the basic screen setup for that is going to be the same whether or not you ran it that way or if it started automatically. It's going to start off by telling you, welcome to the Windows installer of Metastock. It's going to tell you the components that you're going to be using in Metastock. It's then going to bring you to a screen once you start clicking next that will give you the basic disclaimer, letting you know kind of what you're signing and agreeing to. Once you've signed your user agreement, and I do recommend at least glancing through that. I know it's hard for people to read through that whole thing, but at least glance through it so you have an understanding of what you're agreeing to when you click OK there. Once you're past that, you'll be then prompted to enter in your user information. Now, this is where you're going to type in your name and your company and your setup key. Now, the setup key is found on the CD jewel case that you got your CD in, or DVD in this case sometimes as well. If you have the case, setup key is right there, you just type it in. Now, if you have downloaded the program, it's a little bit different. So let me go ahead and show you what it takes if you're going to download it. If you want to download the program, you simply go to www.equus.com. And from the equus.com website, you go up to the top right-hand corner and click My Account. And then you click My Downloads right here in the middle of the page. From here, you just type in your user ID and your password, and you log in. And it will then show you a list of all of the downloads that are available to you. If you have Metastock that you've purchased for download, it will list here the version of your program, and you'll oftentimes see a bundle if you're getting it with Quote Center. Right below that link, you'll see a setup key. You'll want to write that setup key down because that's what's going to be asked for during the installation. So all you have to do is click on the link, download the program, and then run it, and it will then put you on the same spot that we're at with the CD. So once you enter in your setup key, you'll just click OK, and it will then ask you to verify your user information. Say yes. The next screen is then going to be a destination folder dialog. It's going to ask you where you want to install it. I recommend just keeping it on the default, especially if you want us to be able to help you a little bit faster when you call into support. If we know where files are at, we can help you a little bit quicker. But I mean, it's free. You can put it anywhere on your hard drive that you'd like, even on a different hard drive. Now, the next screen is going to then ask you what kind of setup type you want. For the most part, I would just choose Standard and click Next. And then finally, you're going to get to the Equus folder selection. This is going to ask you basically where you want to have this in your Start menu. Just leave it at the default of Equus International and start the installation. Now remember, if you have any questions about this as well, your Metastock manual that can be found in the Metastock program or actually on the hardbound manual, if you got that, is going to tell you on pages 2 to 3 how to do these same steps. So let's go ahead and return back to our slideshow, and that's the basic way of getting that installed. Alright, so all of you are familiar that most applications out there basically have a help dialog. Let's go ahead and bring up Metastock, and let's go ahead and go over the different aspects of Metastock's help dialog, because Metastock and the downloader have also incorporated quite a few help options that can assist you whenever you have questions about certain features of the software. Now, the very first help option that comes up when you first start your program is what's called the tip of the day. Basically, this is just going to be a small little note or little sneaky thing you can do to get a little bit more proficient with the program. So if you'd like, you can read these once a day, and you'll learn a little something each day about how to be more proficient using Metastock. You can also go through all of them one at a time by clicking Next Tip, and it will just show you the next one on the list, and there's quite a few. If you don't want this tip of the day to come up when you start your program, you can take the check mark out where it says Show Tips on Startup. If that's out, then it won't pop up automatically when you start your program. And then you can just simply close this. Now, under the Metastock Help menu, the next option that I wanted to go over is what's called Metastock Help. This is the help dialog that most of you are probably pretty familiar with. It's pretty similar to the way most programs do their help. However, ours is actually pretty functional. You have 3 different ways that you can search for topics. On the left, you have Contents. This allows you to do a categorical search for specific things. So for instance, if I was looking for data on working with price plots, modifying a price plot, and then must be what I'm looking for here, modifying price plots, I could bring up a help dialog there. Now, the next option under the help, Metastock Help, is you can use the Index tab. The Index tab lets you search for a keyword about the subject. So for instance, if I was looking for some information on smart charts, I could simply type in smart charts, and you'll notice as I type in my letters, it will narrow down my search down below. And sure enough, here's some different findings for the word smart charts, and here's a little dialogue. Next option under Help is the Find feature. This allows you to do searches by words actually found in the pages of the help dialogues. This is probably one of the most powerful of the three search means, because it actually lets you do a search by any word found within the dialogue. Now, so for instance, if I noticed in my last find the word default was in that, so it's going to first of all help me narrow down the word I'm looking for, and this is the word, and then these are all of the different help dialogues that contain the word default. And sure enough, there's the smart charts, and there's the same dialogue we were looking at a moment ago. The next dialogue under the help is the manual section. If you didn't get any hard copy manuals, you're going to find these pretty useful. The Getting Started with Metastock is a good way to begin the program and teach you a little bit about the basics of the different analytics that are done with it. Mastering Metastock is also a helpful tool. These are both PDF documents that you can print out if you'd like to have a hard copy. So back under Help, the next option is Submit Service Request. This is going to allow you to actually send us a service request or email, basically asking us a question, and then we can get back with you. If you ask the question between Monday through Friday, we usually can get back with you within 24 hours. Request Online Assistance. This functionality actually brings up a little chat dialog which allows you to chat with an online representative live. Now, we have this available Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and we are looking actually to extend those hours, and that's Mountain Standard Time. But if you ever want to, you can come right here, and that's a good resource available to you. Next in the list is the What's This? This is probably the most useful of all of the help functions, in my opinion. It's called Context-Sensitive Help. What it does is it allows you to first of all select this, and then select any other item within Metastock and bring up a help dialog for it. So if, for instance, I don't know what this is here that I'm pointing to, I simply click Context-Sensitive Help, click this, and it brings up a help dialog about that, telling me what it is. Now, you can access Context-Sensitive Help a few ways. You'll notice it's also here in the toolbar. And sure enough, it brings up help dialogues. And you can also use the hotkeys Shift F1 and then click on something. Equus on the web, these are links to our website. The first is directly to our homepage. And then these are some different files and books that would be useful to you. The Technical Analysis from A to Z is a free ebook that we put on the site for our customers. The version 2 of this is available in hardback as well if you wanted to purchase that, but the version 1 is available on PDF right on our website. This is a great tool for learning technical analysis. Educational Resources is going to bring you links to different websites that will train you on different usages of analytics. Investment Products are links to different plugins and add-ons that will also increase your proficiency with using analytics. The latest files, these are oftentimes downloads for the different symbol files we've created for our customers, and just different common groupings of those kind of files. And lastly, Technical Support will bring you to the frequently asked questions. This is particularly useful if you find yourself on a weekend where we're not working and you have some questions. That's very common that you'll find a frequently asked question out there that will solve your problem for you. The next option under Help is the Tip of the Day. This is going to bring back up that tip of the day that we saw when we first started the program. So if you use the mouse to turn off Show Tips on Startup, this is how you bring this back up. Okay, the Quick Start tutorials go over types of data, opening charts, using the Open dialog, plotting indicators, drawing line studies, working with objects in Metastock, and internet integration, and getting help. So basically a lot of the material that we're covering today. The next option is mostly for customers who haven't already got a data feed. It's the Reuters Datalink Signup. This allows you to actually connect to a sales site where you can actually sign up directly for Reuters Datalink. Now, if you already have a internet data feed, you really don't need to do this. The next option is About Metastock. This simply brings up a dialog telling you about the version of Metastock you have installed, and when it was installed, and the product and who it's licensed to. So these are also some resources that are found in your manual, so if you want some more information about that, you can refer to pages about 3 to 7 in your manual, and they'll go over a lot of these details. In addition, if you ever need any help, we do have phone, email, and chat support available to you so that you can contact our support group and get assistance with your program. So if you ever have any problems, just feel free to give us a call. The phone number is 801-265-9998, or email us at support@equus.com. Lastly, you can also bring up our website, go to equus.com, click on the support tab, and click on Live Help, and it will bring up a live representative that can assist you over the computer. So now let's go ahead and talk a little bit about data. Let's go ahead and bring back up the Metastock program. It's important to know what makes up a chart. So let's go ahead and bring up a basic chart of IBM. Alright, so here's the basic bar chart of IBM. Before you can look at a chart, you have to have data. And a chart then is just simply a graphical representation of price data. Price data can include open, high, low, close, volume, open interest, or any other information for a specific period of time. So Metastock can then use that price data that is stored on a local hard drive, or it can use data that's stored remotely at your local data vendor, which would be, in this case, Reuters Datalink. So the first thing I want to go over is what is data on demand. Data that is stored remotely at your data vendor is called online data. Online data is accessed through Metastock's data on demand technology. You simply choose a symbol from the online data vendor shortcut here, or if you already have a chart open, you just type in the symbol's name, such as here. You just type in MSFT. The data then flows quickly to your chart from the data vendor over the internet. So it pulls in from Microsoft, or from IBM to Microsoft, just over the internet, just like that. Now local data, that is data that is stored on your hard drive locally. To view local data, you first need to create a security, then you collect data through an end-of-day download using the downloader program. So let's go ahead and go over some important facts about data on demand. Some of the pros for using data on demand are kind of the cons of local data, and vice versa. So some of the pros of data on demand are entire databases of securities are available to you quite rapidly. You simply have to type in a symbol and the data appears. Data on demand is the quickest way to view a chart. Also, if changes are made to the data by the data vendor, you can quickly update your data by simply refreshing your chart. Because the data is primarily stored on your remote computer at your data vendor, you also do not need a large amount of hard drive space for storing your data. So those are kind of the pros of data on demand. Here's some of the disadvantages. If you ever lose connection to the internet, you'll not be able to display up-to-date charts. Also, running explorations on online data is a little bit slow. If you're planning on running them regularly, you should consider using local data because it's quite a bit faster. So once again, some of the pros for local data are the cons here for data on demand. If you lose connection to the internet, you can display local data just fine. Also, running explorations on local data is quite fast. So now that you kind of understand the basic of data on demand versus local data, let's go ahead and talk about the local data that's created by the data CD. Now the data CD is a CD that's provided with Metastock oftentimes that includes stocks and mutual funds and indexes for North America. If you are a European or Forex trader, the data CD really probably either wasn't shipped to you or really isn't going to be very useful for you. What it does is when you install it, it creates a bunch of subdirectories on your hard drive underneath the Metastock data folder that's already created, and within those subdirectories it creates a bunch of securities for you automatically. It creates, for instance, a US stock folder that has all of the stocks that were current when that data CD was created. It creates for you like a few subfolders like S&P 500 and some of the other groupings that are useful to you. It also creates some sector folders. Now that can be all done by you without the data CD. It just basically, the whole purpose of the data CD is to save you some time. And if you have North America stocks and mutual funds, it's a pretty useful tool. To install the data CD, all you have to do is follow similar steps that we did when we first installed Metastock. You just put the data CD into the drive, and if you have autoplay enabled, it pops up on your screen, and we'll just walk you through it. Now, if you don't have autoplay enabled, you just go to Start, click on Run, type in d:/setup.exe, and start the process. Now, of course, that's assuming that the D drive is your CD-ROM. So, whether or not you have the data CD, once you have your folders created, you have to then do a data download, and that's when you use the program called the downloader. So I'm going to show you how to do what the data CD does. I'm going to show you how to create a basic security. Let's go ahead now and switch back into Metastock and launch our program called the downloader. You can launch the downloader a few ways, here on the toolbar, under Tools, the downloader, or right from the desktop. Any way you do it, it brings up a separate program called the downloader. So what I'm going to first show you then is to create a security. You go to File, New, Security, and it brings up the New Security dialog. Let's go ahead and create a new folder. We'll call it Class 1 Test. Once we've done that, we can simply now go into the Lookup field. Browse will allow you to browse through your different hard drive folders, or you can create your own by just writing it in. Now we're going to go into Lookup. This brings up the symbol database. This allows us to find exactly what symbol it is we're trying to create. Under the symbol database, we have some types, and these are going to divide our groups into sectors. It's also going to give us listing of symbols based on futures, indices, mutual funds, etc. If you have Quote Center, this list goes a lot farther. But for now, we'll just grab a Stocks Common. Under Stocks Common, I can then choose any number of groups that will basically sort my symbols even farther. So maybe I want to find a stock that's in the S&P 100. Now I can either search for a specific symbol by name or by symbol by clicking there, and then just type in the first few letters of whatever it is I'm trying to create. And as I type in my letters, the list gets narrower and narrower. So here's IBM. I've found it, and I chose IBM on purpose because the name is the same, so here it is. Alright, either way though, I've got it chosen. Once I select it, then I click OK, and it brings it back into this new security dialog. Now from here, all I have to do is choose the first date. This is basically how far historically do I want to go back when I do my download. I'll tell it to go back to 2003. You want to leave periodicity at daily if you're creating a daily security, units on decimal, and under the optional fields you can choose whether or not you have opening prices or open interest selected. Once you're ready to go, all you do is click Create. It's going to then tell me I haven't ever used this folder. Do I want to create it? I'll say yes. It created the Class 1 test, and in that it created my IBM security. Now, you can also create a group of securities all at once. And it's very useful actually to do that. This is also the best way to update folders, because those data CDs, while they give you a bunch of folders, 2 years from now are going to be out of date. So if you go into Lookup and you've been updating your symbol database, which I'll show you how to do in just a moment, you can create an entire folder all at once. So for instance, maybe I want to create the folder for the S&P 100. I choose Stocks Common, S&P 100, and here they all are listed out, all 100 of them. I use Select All to highlight them all, and you can see down in the bottom left-hand corner it says 100 securities selected, and I click OK. And we'll call this S&P 100. So Class 1 Test, SP 100. In here it now says multiple for the symbol and the name, and for the date you simply then once again choose how far back you want to go in time, and then you click Create. That will now create securities for all 100 of those. Now the securities are just basically little data sheets that are empty. Right now they have no data. So I still have to do a data download to actually be able to pull up a chart. This was just the first step. It was the step I needed to be able to create those securities. That's basically the same step that the downloader or the data CD does for you. It creates those securities for you. And you can use that little feature to create multiple securities to update those folders to the latest symbols. Now, to update your symbol database, which is just that lookup feature we were looking at, you simply come here to Tools and Update Symbol Database, and it will update your symbols for you. Not the securities, just the symbols in the symbol database. Once you're ready to collect data, you come into Tools, you go to Download Prices, and this is the dialog that will come up. This is the Select Security dialog. On the left we have a navigation view of our computer, and on the right we have a list of folders. Let's go ahead and remove that folder. Let's go ahead and grab our folders we just created and add them into our download. So we're going into the C drive, into our Metastock data folder, and here is our Class 1 Test folder that we just created. It has one security, and we can verify that by coming over to Securities, and there's our IBM Ordinary. Now, if we also wanted to update our S&P 100 folder we created, we'd highlight that, click Add, and it would highlight that as well. We now have 101 securities total. We have 100 in this folder and 1 in that one. You can add all sorts of groups from here. If you wanted to, for instance, add all of the US stocks, because they're broken down into subfolders, you could choose US stocks and click on Add All Subfolders, and it would add them all to the list. Let's go ahead and try that. And there they are. If you choose some securities folders that you don't want, you can simply click Remove, and it will remove them from the right side. Alright, so now we've got the securities that we want to use. Let's go ahead and click OK. And go into the vendor selection. Always make sure you're on the vendor that is right for you. So, in my case, I'm using Reuters Datalink, so that's the Reuters Datalink tab that I have selected. If you're using Quote Center, make sure you're on the Quote Center tab, because the symbols do vary, and if you don't have an account with Reuters Datalink, it will just fail. So, from here, I need to put in an ending date. You normally just want to leave that as today's date, and it will collect as much data as possible. I want it to have it recollect commodities and have it account for automatic stock splits. That stated, let's go into the vendor options. You put in your user ID and password if you haven't already, and then you click OK. That starts the download. It's going to go out then over the internet, connect to Reuters Datalink, and it's going to try to collect all the data for all 101 securities out there. Let's go ahead and give it just a minute to do that. Okay, it should have just now completed. As it's finished, it's going to bring up this Building Collection Report screen. It's actually now parsing the data and making it sorted into those different data folders so that it's readable. Once this finishes, it's going to bring up what's called a collection report. And a collection report is basically a report card of the download that you just performed. It's going to give you information on each security and let you know how well it performed. A green check mark means that it was able to collect data. A red X means there was some sort of a problem and no data was received. And a yellow triangle is going to mean there was some sort of an issue with the symbol, but data was received. Now you can actually sort these by clicking on Filter, and you can have it show you just, for instance, the errors. In this case, there was none. Or you can tell it to just show the OK symbols, etc., etc. Or you can have it show all three. On each one of these, you can double-click on the specific item, and it will give you a more detailed report of that particular security. So, for instance, it downloaded the 3M Ordinary. It was able to collect 977 records, which is how much we asked for, and it says it was status collected. Now, just because you get a red X, however, it doesn't mean you're always having a problem. If I were to do this same download again with these same securities, I'd get all red X's because none of them were able to collect anything new. If you already have current files, you will get red X's. So that's stated. That's pretty much the collection report, and you can find more detailed information on that in your help manual as well on pages about 42 through 51. So let's go ahead and close this and go back into our Metastock program, and we can talk a little bit now about how to chart securities. Let's go ahead and close the chart that we already have open of Microsoft and of IBM. Okay. So now I'm going to go through some of the basics of how you open a chart and use your securities. Remember, once again, that we can access our charts from data on demand or from local data. In this exercise, I'm going to show you how to do one and then the other. Now, to open up a new chart, there's a few options. You can go to File, New. This is going to bring up a brand new chart using the default template, File, New Chart. You can also go to File, Open. This is going to bring you up the Open dialog and let you open up existing smart charts and existing charts, which can be very useful, especially if you want charts that have been saved or made changes to. You can also access these same two features here by clicking on the little paper with the little bent corner, or here by clicking on the opening folder. We're going to use the Open dialog, and that's the main way you'll be using to open up your charts. First, we need to go into File, Open, and let me go ahead and explain a bit about the Open dialog here. On the left, you have four different options for opening your securities. You have History, Local Data, Favorites, and Reuters Datalink. History is where Metastock keeps track of the most recent charts that you've opened, and you can open them from here by simply clicking on History. Local data is where you can actually access the data on your hard drive. So this is where you access your local data. And currently we're in the S&P 500 folder. Favorites. Metastock allows us to save charts that we choose into our favorites directory. So we can have an easy grouping of these securities, and we can kind of sort through them using our favorites. And lastly, we have Reuters Datalink. Because we're using Reuters Datalink end of day, that's what's available here. If you're using Professional, you'd have a link here for Quote Center or eSignal or whatever program you're using for your data feed. This is where it would be. Now, when you select this, it actually is connecting you to your symbol database and is going to let you actually download this data directly over the internet. So now, similar to when we were looking up symbols in the Lookup tool in the downloader, we can search here as well by symbol or by name. The default with your programs is to have you search by symbol, which is indicated right here. You can change that option by simply going to Options and do View by Name. Now, all we have to do is click here in the field and start to type in a symbol. As we narrow down our list, our symbols will appear up above. You can also do a categorical search by going into the folders that you see right above that. This base directory contains everything, but as we get more specific, For instance, if we were to go into futures, there is no future called IBM, so it won't bring up anything. But if we go back up one level and go into stocks common, we're still finding something. We're still finding something. And if you didn't know the name of what you were looking for and you just knew it was some security in the S&P 100, there's the S&P 100 and you'd have a much smaller group to look through. Now let's go ahead and show you how to do this. You just type in the symbol once again and click on it and choose Open. This is going to bring up a daily chart of IBM, and this is whatever someone saved, so this has got some fun, crazy stuff going on it. Let's go ahead and close that. Back to File, Open. Alright, once you have a chart open, let's go ahead and bring up Microsoft. So I'll show you one more time, MSFT. Choose it from the list and click Open. Here's Microsoft. You can go down to the bottom area, which is called the X-axis, and here's an advantage of data on demand. In the X-axis, I'm going to look, and it's got data loaded from 2001 to 2006, and it's showing me about a month's worth of data. I want to change that. I want to get 10 years of data, so I'm going to go through 1996. And I want it to show me all the way back to January 1st, 2000. I'm going to click Apply, close this. Alright, now let's go ahead and zoom out. It now has gone back all the way from 1996 to 2006, and it did it just like that. So with data on demand, you can tell it right on the fly what dates you want loaded, and it will go grab that data and pull it into your chart. Now let's go ahead and close this, and let's go ahead and I'm going to show you now how to bring up a chart with local data. So with local data, you click on local data, and you use the other features of the Open dialog to navigate around your computer. Up here where it says Look In, it's referring to this folder here to the right of it. Right now we are looking in the S&P 500 folder. This is on our hard drive. We can click on this little box here and actually see kind of just the top-down view of what folders we're in. We can use that to help us navigate up to the folders we want. So we know we want to start on the C drive, go into Metastock data, and we want to go into our Class 1 Test S&P 100 that we downloaded. From here, we have a list of all of the securities we downloaded. It also gives us the periodicity and their name, and it gives us the last date they were downloaded, which in this instance was just now, so today. So let's go ahead and type in a symbol. Here's one, and bring up Microsoft. So this chart of Microsoft is local data. It was accessed through our local data on our hard drive, and it's the data we downloaded. It's not the same security as the one we pulled up with data on demand, even though the data should be the same since we used the same data vendor to download from both ways. Now, here's a disadvantage of local data. If I want to, I can go into the X-axis properties and I can change the date. But say let's try to do what we did before, and I want to go back to 1996, and I want to view all the way back to 2000. Click Apply. Nothing changed. And the reason why is because the only data available on this file is the data we've downloaded. It's not a dynamically updating file. You have to go and manually change the start date and do another download in the downloader to get the data to go back to 1996. It can't be done on the fly. So as you can see, it only goes back to 2003, which is what we specified when we set the first date when we created the security. So that's the basic difference between local data and data on demand, and that's how you actually open up a chart. Let me go ahead now and quickly show you, before we run out of time, how to plot an indicator. Now, while we still have our chart here of Microsoft, I'm going to go over the different types of indicators first. Now, an indicator is just basically a mathematical calculation that can be applied to security price data like you see right now, or it can be applied even to other indicators or the volume. The result is then a value that you can use to anticipate future changes in prices. So indicators are plotted either in a separate inner window, like for instance the volume is an indicator and it's plotted down here, or you can actually plot them on top of the securities prices or on top of the volume, etc. There's three types of indicators. There is a price indicator. Price indicators are always calculated off of the securities pricing data. So whether or not they're in their own inner window or whether or not they're plotted on top of the price data, they will always use the price data to make their calculations. Now these kind of indicators are shown. Let me go ahead and bring up the indicator quick list by clicking on this little down arrow. Price indicators are shown by the little bar chart to the left in the little gray box. If they have the little price bars here on the left, then they are pricing indicators. The next kind of indicator is the plot-based indicator. Plot-based indicators can be plotted on any existing plot. For example, a moving average is an example of a plot-based indicator. And basically it is always calculated using the existing price of whatever it's being plotted on. So if a plot-based indicator is not directly plotted onto anything, it then defaults back to the price bars again for its calculation. But if I were to drop this moving average on my volume, it wouldn't use the price data, it would use a moving average of the volume. So let me go ahead now and show you that there are two ways to plot indicators in Metastock. The first way is the easier way of the two. That's just to use this drag and drop method here. You simply choose your indicator here in the list, bring your mouse over the top of the gray box, left click, drag down, and drop it where you want it. If I wanted to make this a moving average of the price bars, I would drop it here. If I wanted to make it a moving average of the volume bars, I'd drop it here. You can also make it in its own inner window by dropping it on the title bar of your chart. In this case, let's go ahead and just drop it here on the price bars. We'll make it a 28-day exponential moving average and click OK. And there it is. Now the last type of indicator is called a custom indicator. And at the very bottom of all of these top indicators are a list of all of the custom ones. They have the little F on the left. Custom indicators are basically created with the formula language, and they are a mix of price indicators and plot indicators, but all of your personalized indicators you create will be here in this list of custom indicators. Now, the second way you can plot an indicator is using the indicator dialog. To do that, you simply go up to the top and you go to Insert, Indicators, and it brings up this dialog here. From here, you can choose which indicator you want, say the MACD. The MACD is a price-based indicator. Because of that, it's only going to give us an option to plot it in the different windows. No matter which window we plot it in, it's going to use the securities price data for its calculation. So we'll go ahead and put this one in its own inner window. Choose that, and then you choose the time periods, and it's plotted on your chart. So those are the two different ways that you can plot indicators on your chart. And we'll be going into a lot more depth about indicators in our upcoming classes. So feel free to ask any questions about plotting indicators at the end of class today. But for the most part, those are the basics. I just wanted to get you a basic understanding of how to use an indicator. So the next option is the news and fundamental data that are available to you in Metastock under the Research menu. To get the Research menu, you simply right-click on your chart and go down to Research. From here, you're going to have a variety of links to different sites that will give you more fundamental data. So under Research, you can find out news, and this would be in connection right now to Microsoft. It can look up company news, key developments, and press releases. You can also go to financials, find out financial highlights, financial statements and ratios. Under sentiment, you can find performance, shares shorted, insider trading, and institutional ownership. And under analysis, you can get risk alerts, earnings statements, broker recommendations, and broker research. Now, each of these sites is going to take you to different websites, and when you do go to them, oftentimes they'll have you set up a free user account. You'll have to do that the first time you go, and then once you have a user account with them, you'll be able to go back in often and use your user ID and password and log in with them. That is a free feature, so don't worry about entering and creating a user ID with them. They aren't going to charge you. So that's all we're going to be going over today in our Class 1. We'll be having another class at the same time next week, and I look forward to seeing you all. Just in summary, we went over today how to utilize the support and help features, how to get basic installation done on your computer. We went through the differences between local data versus data on demand, how to use the data CD, and how to actually use the downloader to create securities and download them. We then went through the charting securities and how to plot basic indicators and bring up fundamental leaks.